There have been a lot of Zelda games over the years, and I thought with it being Zelda month, it would be fun to share with you my top 5 favorite Zelda games. Keep in mind that this is just my opinion. This is not an objective list, it's just what I enjoy most. Of course, I'm always open to your opinions as well, so leave me your lists in the comments below. I'm genuinely interested to see what you guys think. On that note, let's begin. Starting the list off strong here, we got Skyward Sword. This game was quite controversial when it first came out on the Wii, and rightfully so. It was a bit of a mess to control and the pacing was really wonky. Mostly due to her. You know who I'm referring to. But with the Switch release and all the fixes that come with it, the game itself shines. It's got a fun story with excellent characters with actual growth. It's also got fun bosses and some of the most creative dungeons in the entire series. Take the Ancient Cistern for example. This dungeon is based off an old Buddhist text depicting paradise and hell, and you can see that reflected in the dungeon as you have to navigate to the dungeon above ground where it's bright and there's life everywhere, albeit some less friendly than others. And then there's the underground where it's dark and cold and the water is replaced with a strange purple substance that hurts you. I also think the unique combat in this game is super fun. It is a little strange how enemies hold up their weapons in unnatural ways, but when you get immersed you kind of forget about it, even when using the button mappings from the HD release. Also, this iteration of Link is very underrated. He's really expressive and not in a super over-the-top way like Toon Link was, but you can really tell what he is thinking at any given moment just by looking at his facial expressions and body language. Of course, the game isn't perfect. If it was, it wouldn't be number 5. Like, I would have liked it if there were more areas to explore instead of backtracking to the same 3 areas over and over again, and the sky was really barren, like somehow even emptier than the Great Sea in Wind Waker. But it's still a great Zelda game. Even though it wasn't executed flawlessly, I still think everyone should at least give it a try. And hey, without it, we wouldn't get Breath of the Wild and eventually Tears of the Kingdom, since this game introduced the stamina wheel and other stuff like material collecting. So it was a necessary step. Oh boy, this one might be questionable to some people, but hear me out. This game is wonderful, it's fantastic, I love it to death. But as that new Zelda game hype wears off, you start to notice more things dragging the game down. The game does incredible things, like Ultra Hand allows for endless possibilities when it comes to puzzle solving, and using it to make your own solution that wasn't intended by the devs is super rewarding. I also love how it fixed the durability system from Breath of the Wild with the fuse ability. Well, not exactly fixed, but it solved one of the core issues that durability had in that game. You see, in Breath of the Wild, it always feels wrong to use the stronger weapons you have since you only have a limited supply in your inventory that all break after like one silver enemy, and then you end up just chucking sticks at them until they die. But in Tears, you have an endless amount of strong weapons in your inventory and all you gotta do is find base weapons to fuse them with. And there are so many creative ways to use fuse that combat is near limitless. Like, most of the time you're fusing a monster horn to your sword to boost its attack power, but there are some combos that are actually god tier as well. Like fusing a dragon shard to an arrow or your shield will cause the element to explode in an absurdly large distance, or my personal favorite, throwing a bomb flower onto your shield can launch you sky high, allowing you to follow up with more combos that can go on and on and on and on. Like seriously, there are so many combinations that the only limitation is how long you're willing to experiment for. Also, like many others, I was super worried about Nintendo reusing the same world from Breath of the Wild, but it actually turned out alright. They fleshed out the world so much that it's almost completely new and doesn't hinder the exploration if you played the previous game. It's like revisiting your hometown after a few years to see what's new in a way. Other than that, I wish the memories were something that happened over time instead of being optional bits of story like in the last game. It sucks because you can miss key moments or see them completely out of order, which ruins the payoff of some of the biggest moments in the game. My last big complaint is the menu. It could seriously use a search bar or a favorite system, especially when selecting what to fuse onto your arrows. It's annoying that the game is just like, here's a long list of everything you got, pick one. It does pick up which items you use more frequently than others, but I'd much rather be able to select those items myself and have them on a second row or something. Overall, this game is just a straight up upgrade to Breath of the Wild. It honestly makes that game obsolete. Apparently we're not getting any DLC though, so it looks like no master mode, which sucks, but hey, at least modders are coming together to save the day. The classic Zelda experience. What more can I say? This game has paved the way for games that came after it, both in the Zelda series and outside it. This game still holds up 25 years later with an amazing narrative and fun gameplay. Sure, the N64 release isn't as good as it once was, but the 3D release brings out the absolute best in this game. There's also the PC port called the Ship of Harkinian, which is what you see on screen right now. It offers a fully customizable version of the N64 release, allowing you to play the game completely vanilla, or with a variety of quality of life improvements that make some parts less annoying. My favorite of these changes is that you can make Link push blocks faster. Ocarina of Time loves its block pushing puzzles, so it makes things a bit smoother. This game is a must play for any Zelda fan. Yes, it has some issues like how the controls are a little bit dated, like there's no camera controls unless you play SOH, but the story is an absolute classic, and it's filled to the brim with everything we've come to expect from this series, with iconic locations and music like the Lost Woods and Gerudo Valley. Also, this was the very first game to feature Ganondorf. All previous installments had Ganon, but not his Gerudo counterpart. Finally, the dungeons in this game. While they are very simple in theming, mostly just a temple based off an element of some kind, they have fun puzzles to solve with all the classic Zelda items you've come to expect. Also, Water Temple is the best dungeon in the game. Fight me. Yes, Ocarina of Time has been done better now by other games in the series, but that's a good thing. It served its purpose as the first 3D Zelda game extremely well. Point is, there's a reason this game became the blueprint for future Zelda games. Well, before Breath of the Wild, that is. This game, the outcast of the Zelda games, the one unlike any other, this was the Zelda team's response to the overwhelming success that was Ocarina of Time. They developed this game in 8 months, and because of that they did have to cut some corners, so a lot of the NPCs are clones from Ocarina of Time, but they are completely different in name and personality with the exception of a couple NPCs. This game also made use of the N64's expansion pack, and because of that, the game does look much better. If you say that Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask look the same, you'd be crazy. You can tell the improvements just by looking at Link. His model is significantly more detailed here than it was in Ocarina of Time. But back on topic of the actual game though, this follow-up of Ocarina of Time has you started wandering through the forest looking for Navi when you get ambushed. Then, while chasing your pursuer, you fall into an alternate dimension and get cursed to look like a tree. You know, the usual stuff. After all that, you face some racism, and then go back to being normal again. This is where the real game begins. You are stuck in a 3-day loop and your goal is to beat all the dungeons and to save the 4 of Giants to stop the moon from crashing. That stuff is put on hold though, because the main draw here are the side quests. They are easily the best and most memorable side quests in the entire series. Like, name another Zelda game where you defend a farm against aliens and if you fail, you watch as all the cows and a little girl get abducted, or go through a long chain of various quests to bring 2 lovers together. This all works because of the 3-day time cycle. It works so well to make the NPCs seem so much more alive without changing anything about the AI itself. They all have set routines, but this only makes you more immersed because you are in that time loop. This game was so cleverly made because they used their limitations to their advantage and made a game that is really something special. This is what Zelda is to me. I am a little biased because this is the first Zelda game I've ever played, but it has so many good qualities to it. For starters, this is one of the only Zelda games where you play as a direct descendant of a previous Link, in this case the Hero of Time. You even get to train with his ghost. Like, seriously, how cool is that? The game isn't perfect. For one, I think it's way too easy, almost as easy as Wind Waker, and that is disappointing because the combat in this game is fun. It's not hard, but over time, you get to learn new moves that aren't necessary, but they make you feel like a badass. Like, look at some of this stuff, it's so cool, and then you put your sword away and Link does the epic sheathing animation. It's so nice! This version of Link is just straight up awesome. Speaking of the combat, this game's bosses are especially good. They are so cinematic with these epic battle themes, and also that one theme when you stun them is just oh. And then afterwards, you get a moment to just calm down when the boss defeated music plays. That's one thing I love about this game. I love how this game can so organically switch tone from being serious to epic to subdued and thoughtful, and of course to the goofy shenanigans that Zelda always has. Also, the dungeons in this game are top notch. Like seriously, they are so well done, with either Arbiter's Grounds, which is canonically a torture establishment for prisoners, or Snow Peak Ruins, which is an abandoned mansion with 2 Yeti squatters completely overrun by monsters, being my favorite. It's amazing how well they put this game together, especially considering the development hell it was in, which I never really knew about until I watched this video by Manly Reviews. It was an interesting watch, check it out whenever you have half an hour to kill. Also, this is sort of unrelated, but the Twilight Princess manga is peak and you should read it, because its story is like a refined version of the game and goes into depth about many of the more unexplained aspects of the game. So yeah, that's my list. This series means a lot to me, it's one I grew up on, so I made sure to be very careful about my choices here. I'm so happy that this series has stuck around as long as it has, and it doesn't seem to be going anywhere as well. Especially with the recent announcement of a live-action movie in the making. I'm a bit worried about that, but that's a topic for another video, which I'm not ready to make until we get a trailer. But that's all from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you see here, consider subscribing to the channel. I'll see you later and have a good day.